Yo, yo, yo! Welcome back. Welcome back. Man, yo, what's good? Welcome to the 19th 2020 Controversial Conversation Fireside Chat. You dig? I know we've been talking like since number 11. We gonna change the name to something shorter, but whatever. But anyways, I got something planned for next week's 2020 Controversial Conversation Fireside Chat. It's an answer to a question I've been getting a lot. I'm not gonna tell y'all the question right now, but when you see the 5 part segment, you'll understand basically where I'm coming from. And it's a lot of solutions to a lot of questions and a lot of problems. So, very excited to be doing that one. But we are here in the present and the now. So, let's jump into it. Today, mainly, I'm going to talk about things that are kind of surrounding the shit show clusterfuck of a circus yesterday, man. Let me tell you. Goodness gracious. The AG Barr testimony, excuse me, it showed why politics, especially American modern politics, are really nothing but, just pageantry, just nonsensical political wrestling. Like it's stupid. It is ridiculous. Like I just oh man. But I want to go through some of the highlights from some of the things that I saw, and I'm not gonna lie, this was like I don't know, like a five and a half. I don't know how long this thing was. This was a long hearing. So he did his thing, and the typical pundits from both sides obviously did their thing. When Fox News would report about it and talk about it, he dismantled the Dems. He showed that stone-walled perseverance and man, bullshit. And then CNN and everybody on the left are like, they killed him. He wasn't able to answer anything. He was sweating and scared. That other kind of bullshit. So like my dad says, what you got to do is look in the middle and try to decipher between the bullshit, right? So what I saw was Republicans, when they would ask him certain questions, weren't in a way trying to find answers to things that were necessary. They were trying to frame and create narratives based on partisanship. And they would just give him like softball questions. They would tell him, it's so unfair what you're going through here today, and this, that, and the other. Try to butter him up, and then they wouldn't really incriminate or ask anything that could potentially incriminate him, incriminate Trump, or would actually help this testimony at all. And then the Democrats, what they would be doing is they would just be having like this crossfire examination type shit where it's like rapid questioning. But see, I understand it now. So obviously, Barr wasn't given enough time to answer most of the questions, especially when it came from the Democratic congressmen and women. So that was an issue that I saw a lot of people talking about. And at first I'm like, yeah, like he really didn't really get a chance to answer. So how do we really know what he's trying to say about these certain things that are actually very, very prevalent at this moment? And then I started thinking, I was like, well, motherfuckers only got 5 minutes, right? Like they only got 5 minutes to ask these questions. They had to keep saying, I am reclaiming my time. Okay, AG Barr. Okay, Barr. Okay, I'm reclaiming my time. Like they have to literally do that. So you're talking about 5, 10, 15 seconds every time that he starts obfuscating, filibustering, bullshitting. You know what I'm saying? And he did it a lot. Like he would blame Obama the way that he handled the CDC and this, that, and the other, right? So he would talk about the fact that he. All right. So I know a lot of y'all don't like the phrasing of defunding the police, and that is something that we're really going to get into in a little bit. But the way that he thinks about it, you can tell that it's framed in the same right wing political talking points where it sounds like abolish and it's going to be chaos and murder and stuff like that. So he goes and says, we need to continue to fund them even more, this, that, and the other. And that is a point I'm going to talk about later, not necessarily about the testimony, but about the defunding situation in general. But the things that Barr was saying, you could tell like he didn't really want to say too much because he knows that he's fucked up. You know what I'm saying? Like the mischaracterization of the Mueller report. Okay, so there was an interrogation between Representative Swalwell. I can't remember exactly where he's from or what state he represents, but he basically was asking, okay, so in your own words, you are saying that if somebody attempts to pardon or commute somebody for, in exchange of silence or not incriminating them during a prosecution, you would basically say that's a crime. And he basically read his own words. I'm paraphrasing, and Barr's like, "Well, yes, it's a crime." And he said, "Right, right. You didn't say it would be wrong. You said it would be a crime." And then Barr's like, "Yeah, okay, so." And then Swalwell asked him, "Is there going to be an investigation into Roger Stone and the commutation of Roger Stone by Donald Trump?" And Barr's like, "No, why would there? I don't know why would do that." He said, "Well, based on what's happened and based on these tweets, that seems like Trump was praising and telling, Stone not to incriminate him, not to say nothing about him. And then, Stone didn't do nothing, didn't say anything. And then he gets commuted when his ass is supposed to be going to prison, right? So, and then he's like, well, I don't, and he's like, so he says that he doesn't understand where that was coming from. And there's like, I don't know about those tweets. But those tweets, specifically, that Swalwell had mentioned, were actually in the Mueller report. The same Mueller report that AG Barr was tasked with explaining to the people, and we still haven't seen the unredacted version or anything like that. And they were asking, are we going to be able to see that now that the investigations have been completed and stuff like that? So it's a whole bunch of stuff that he's just fumbling and fumbling and fumbling. And it's like, bruh, you are so piss poor. He had the audacity, he had the audacity to say that he doesn't believe that there's really systemic racism or institutionalized racism, in his department or the United States, really. And then it was like literally brought in front of his eyes. They asked him, it's like, you, AG Sessions, and I can't even remember the other mug's name. I really don't even care to remember his name. They were like, when all of y'all came through after you've been appointed or whatnot, you brought like no black people with you. Like, none of them. And then they're like, that in itself is systemic racism. They're like, and Barr's just sitting there just looking dumbfounded. I'm like, bruh, I don't know. Another issue that I had was this hell-bent, I don't even know how to really describe it, but the way that people are going about this whole Antifa thing, like going so hard about it, like they're just the biggest domestic threat, but we know they're not. We know what the biggest domestic terrorist threat to the United States is. It is radicalized white right-wing terrorism, okay? It's either alt-right militiamen bullshit. It's either some crazy-ass conservative Christian bullshit. You know what I'm saying? There's like a whole bunch of that shit. People be trying to blow up abortion clinics and shit like that in the name of God and stuff. That type of shit, right? So, oh, and don't forget school shootings. No, don't forget, all the school shootings. So I'm saying, like, he doesn't want to spend any money, really. No real departments dedicated to this. They're just now doing this. Haven't put the KKK on a domestic terrorist list, yet they're hell-bent on trying to figure out a way to demonize and create ways to basically arrest Antifa members on spot. They're doing all kinds of crazy shit. The protesters in Portland, some of them have been arrested, and since they're waiting on charges, they're not allowed to actually go protest until the charges have been cleared. They're attempting to squash people's constitutional rights. And him, as the man who is supposed to be in charge of the Justice Department, he's failed. Like, he has failed. He actually, when asked about the way that Trump has been sending these things, he was the one who said he wants to choose the states. Like, AG Barr himself wants to choose the states, that he himself will deploy these federal officials who aren't announcing who the fuck they are. There's unmarked vans. They're literally taking protesters, just throwing them in there. They're shooting bruh. Like, law and order isn't happening. Somebody made an amazing point about what is happening. Trump is creating situations that he can use for photo op opportunities, which would be redundant, photo opportunities, and then also that he can use for political ads. So he can say, this is what's going on in your cities. This is the law and order that we need to do. And you're going to start to see a lot of these campaign ads coming from him because he's going to stay with this law and order thing because that's all he has right now. And it's stupid because let's just go ahead and lead the testimony for a minute and let's actually just talk about the way that policing in the United States works. Like it really doesn't. So let me give y'all some numbers. All right. Studies have shown that 40% of murders go unsolved. You're like, all right, well, at least 60%. I'm like, okay, whatever. Fine. How about this? 70% of robberies, right? 70% of robberies unsolved. You're like, wait, okay. All right, right. 90% of all like actual just like burglaries and stuff, right? Unsolved. 70% of sexual assault cases, unsolved. Right. So, but police are making upwards of 10 million arrests a year. Something doesn't add up, right? Like, how is it that if you're not solving the cases that need to be solved, how are your arrest numbers so high? Well, that's because about 5% of these arrests are for violent offenses. And about 85% are for low-level offenses. And it's because we over-criminalize everything. It's because we police for profit. It's because we do broken window policing, where we attempt to find small, minute issues that we can pull people over for in an attempt to find a bigger thing, such as broken taillights that end up in people losing their life, stuff like that. I don't want to get too much into those solutions because that's something that I am going to be talking about next week. That's something I guess I can tell y'all about. But what I kind of want to talk about is the fact that we don't need to keep putting extra funds, you know what I'm saying, into police, the defense budget, nothing like that. And I'm tired of saying that defunding the police is bad branding for few reasons. One, you guys have no issue with the fact that they have literally, and this is from a meme, I know, but let's break it down. You have no problem with the fact that they have been defunding your children's school education for decades, right? They have been slashing funds from budgets for decades. That's why the classrooms, they are becoming so much bigger in size of students, but the teacher can only handle so much. There's so many there's such a lack of resources. So the student or the teachers are consistently having to use their own money to buy these supplies and do this and do that. There's less instructional time because these classes are so much bigger. And there's less personal time between the teacher and the student that can build this bond, that can literally prepare this child for success. Instead, it's almost like a factory system of memorization and standardized testing where we just send them on in there, give them a few facts, ask them to raise their hand if they got to go to the bathroom, feed them a little bit if they got money, and then kick their ass out at 2:45. And it's like, this is what we call school. And that's not school. That's definitely not learning. But that's a defunded education. That's a neglected education. But you still have the education system, right? It wasn't abolished. So that's why I'm saying I'm tired of saying we have to rephrase defunding. Fuck that. Stop giving in to their ways. They are only going to purposely attempt to misinterpret what you say anyways. If you say reform the police, they'll find a way to be like, well, there's nothing actually wrong with our police. What do they want to reform? You know, they probably just want to give guns to the gang members and then have them call themselves deputies, and then that way they reform their own. No, they're always going to come up with something stupid. Stick to your points, continue through, and don't keep going back. We ain't got to do that. We don't have to use 3 pages to explain what defund means. If they ask, say, look, man, the police get too much goddamn money, but we could actually put this money other places that would stop a lot of the crime, which means the police wouldn't even have to respond as much. And then, maybe we could probably change the qualifications for police officers. They'd be like, what do you mean? Why? Well, if you change the qualifications, then you can no longer say, man, they don't make enough money, because with the higher qualifications, then the higher threshold that they can get for a salary, and more people would be in agreement and saying, yeah, I believe they deserve to get paid more. But they have such a dangerous job. Oh man, I'm glad you said something about that. Actually, they don't, right? So in studies, a lot of the studies basically come to the same conclusion that when it comes to fatalities per 100,000, they don't hit the top 15. Actually, they're right outside at number 16. And I actually wrote them down. Let me find it. All right. So when it comes to the most, deadly professions and stuff like that, or the most dangerous, it goes loggers, fishermen, pilots, and, flight engineers, roofers, recyclable material collectors, truck drivers, farmers, ranchers, agricultural supervisors, iron steel workers, construction trade contraction supervisors, landscaping groundskeeping supervisors, electrical power line installers, grounds maintenance workers, miscellaneous agricultural workers, helpers, construction trade, and supervisors of repairmen. So, they don't even hit the top 15, but we don't ever say, well, what about them? What about the loggers? They need to get more money. What about, and you know why? Because we've been conditioned to buy into this hero complex about the police and how they can do no wrong. And that is the biggest issue and the biggest obstacle that we come to when speaking about defunding the police, because the stigma around police officers about the fact that they had this dangerous job, nobody wants to talk about the fact that it's not as dangerous, and then they also put themselves into more danger by over-criminalizing things and by using tactics that exacerbate situations, right? So, look, man, the fact that Barr does not want to defund, the fact that he wants to continue to send federal officials to quash First Amendment rights, the fact that he wants to be Trump's personal legal counsel, and he wants to obfuscate, wants to mischaracterize, wants to do all of this bullshit when he's been given a certain position where he should stand on the right side of justice. We don't need him anymore. And the fact that people have called for his impeachment is something that is definitely necessary to look into. And if these papers come around on change, or the petitions, if you see them, sign them. Because this is the time to make the change. Barr is a problem. McConnell is a problem. Trump is a problem. And we have the ability to solve and handle these problems. Y'all had better get out to vote. You had better get out to vote. November 3rd, you have got to show up. I understand that you are scared right now that you might die showing up to vote, but so were the people in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, just the chance to vote. All right, I understand that might sound callous and harsh, but you know what? They're trying too hard to keep the vote away. You know what I'm saying? That was something else that Barr had, been asked about. This conspiracy theory that Trump keeps pushing about, keep saying that this mail-in voting is going to lead to a rigged election and this, that, and the other. And I was like, well, the president has done it. You've done it. He's like, well, yeah, but, you know what I'm saying? It's always some bullshit. It's hypocrisy. All right? So look, y'all. I need you. Okay? I need you to show up and to show out. If you've been to these protests, you know what I'm saying? If you've been online talking this and that, if you've been making connections and networks, I am so happy. Keep it up. Don't stop. This is going to be a long fight. A long, long fight. But I need you to vote too. So, till November 3rd, and until next week, I love y'all. See you soon.